Welcome to the Gospel Road. We are looking at John chapter 9 today. It says, as he passed by, he saw a man blind from birth. And his disciples asked him, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Jesus answered, it was not that this man sinned or his parents, but that the works of God might be displayed in him. We must work with the works of him who sent me while it is day. Night is coming, no one can work. As long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world. Having said these things, he spit on the ground and made mud with the saliva. Then he anointed the man's eyes with the mud and said to him, Go wash in the pool of Siloam, which means sent. So he went and washed and came back seeing. The neighbors and those who had seen him before as a beggar were saying, Is this not the man who used to sit and beg? Some said, It is he. Others said, No, but he is like him. He kept saying, I am the man. So they said to him, Then how were your eyes open? He answered, The man called Jesus made mud and anointed my eyes and said to me, Go to Siloam and wash. So I went and washed and received my sight. They said to him, Where is he? He said, I do not know. They brought to the Pharisees the man who had formerly been blind. Now it was a Sabbath day when Jesus made the mud and opened his eyes. And the Pharisees again asked him how he had received his sight. And he said to him, He put mud on my eyes, and I washed, and I see. And some of the Pharisees says, This man is not from God, for he does not keep the Sabbath. But others said, How can a man who is a sinner do such signs? And there was a division among them. So they said again to the blind man, What do you say about him, since he has opened your eyes? He said, He is a prophet. The Jews did not believe that he had been blind and had received his sight until they called the parents of the man who had received his sight and asked them, Is this your son who was born blind? How then does he now see? His parents answered, We know that this is our son, and that he was born blind. But how he now sees, we do not know, nor do we know who opened his eyes. Ask him. He is of age. He will speak for himself. His parents said these things because they feared the Jews, for the Jews had already agreed that if anyone should confess Jesus to be Christ, that he would be put out of the synagogue. Therefore, his parents said, He is of age, ask him. So for the second time they called the man who had been blind and said to him, Give glory to God, who we know that this man is a sinner. He answered, Whether he is a sinner, I do not know. One thing I do know, that I thought that though I was blind, now I see. They said to him, What did he do to you? How did he open your eyes? He answered, I have already told you, and you would not listen. Why do you want to hear it again? Do you also want to become his disciple? They reviled him, saying, You are his disciple, but we are disciples of Moses. We know that God has spoken to Moses, but as for this man, we do not know where he comes from. The man answered, This is an amazing thing. You do not know where he comes from, and yet he opened my eyes. We know that God does not listen to sinners, but if anyone is a worshiper of God and does his will, God listens to him. Never since the world began has it been heard that anyone opened the eyes of a man born blind. If this man were not from God, he could do nothing. They answered him, You were born in utter sin, and would you teach us? And they cast him out. Jesus heard that they cast him out, and having found him, he said, Do you believe in the Son of Man? He answered, And who is he, sir, that I may believe in him? And Jesus said to him, You have seen him, and it is he who is speaking to you. He said, Lord, I believe, and he worshipped him. Jesus said, For judgment I came into this world, that those who do not see may see, and those who see may become blind. Some of the Pharisees near him heard these things and said to him, Are we also blind? And Jesus said to them, If you were blind, you would have no guilt. But now that you say, we see, your guilt remains. John chapter 9. I find this an interesting story because it really is discussing knowledge, information. What do you know? What are you willing to know? What are you willing to accept? What are you willing to find out more of if you do not understand? And it's interesting because the way the Pharisees were acting, because this is the way things are and this is the way we have to believe, and something different comes, something happens, and they were not going to believe it. They did not want to believe it. There's just no way that this can happen. We have no answers. We have no proof. And sometimes that's just the way life is. I have a lot of friends who believe in science, which I do too. In fact, here's what I believe. I'm not saying that everyone agrees with me, but for me, I believe you cannot have science without God, and you cannot have God without science. Because there are so many things out there that scientists are still trying to discover, trying to understand, but yet they're there. But they cannot come up with an answer to why they're there. Well, to me, that would be something that's supernatural. That would be God. It's there because of God. But science is trying to come up with an answer for that. And over the years, it has happened to many things that we have not been able to have answers for, and they've found those answers. But see, it's, again, learning, gaining that information. You know, the Bible talks about that. It talks about learning more and becoming knowledgeable and understanding. Many times we go through life with those blinders on, and we do not want to know what's happening around us. I was watching a podcast earlier today, and they were talking about the Satan clubs that are starting to pop up around in schools because there are school systems that said that it's okay for that to happen. And there are many Christians that are freaking out about this rather than it being an opportunity to have a conversation. Not a fight, not a disagreement, not an argument, but a conversation. I know many people that are agnostic, that are atheist, that believe in supernatural. They think differently. They are New Age people. And we have conversations all the time. It's interesting because even me growing up in church and being told how bad these people are and they do not want to hear it, it's funny how we can have conversations about God. We can have conversations about the Bible. So if they're able to hold a very reasonable conversation with me, why is it that we have to fight with them? Why is it that we have to argue? Why can you not just have a conversation with them? Be calm over a cup of coffee, over dinner, playing a board game. The Bible says that they will know we are disciples by our love. And that's loving one another. And that's being there for one another. And that's helping someone who needs help when something is going on. That is what we need to be doing. That is our job, our purpose, our calling. To love one another. It doesn't matter what they believe. It doesn't matter who they are. What matters is if they need to be lifted up, if they need to be built up, we need to be the one that lifts them up, to pick them up, to help them, to get that level, to love them. Because we all have a free will. And with that free will, we are able to make our own decisions. And people are going to make their own decisions. We might not like their decisions, but they can make their own decisions. It's okay. That's the part that we seem to fight against because it's our way or the highway and we want to hear nothing different. So is your problem that you are so focused and narrow-minded because maybe you do not have a strong enough faith in yourself that you are afraid that you are going to get blindsided or you're going to get led astray? Maybe you need to rethink where you are. Maybe you need to think where it is that you're standing. It's just like when we are dealing with our job, and we are having those goals set and finding out where we are and where that next step is and where are we going. Are we happy with where we are? Are we doing everything we need to be doing? Are we being the best worker that we can be for us to grow personally and professionally? We need to think that same way when it comes to our faith. Are we strong? Are we there? Do we know what is going on? Are we not to be swayed? You know, you're at work. I mean, there are things that I know, and I know this is the way it works. And I'm sorry, you're not going to tell me a different way because this just is the way it happens. Now, there are things that can change. But even with the changes that happen, does it still sway for my belief? Does it sway for my knowledge that I know this is how things happen? No, because I have that faith. I know this is the way things are going to work. Things may change how it gets there. But there are certain things that are fact, and this is the way it is. There's certain things that are truth. Sometimes truth can change a little bit, because the truth is I can turn that light switch on and the light will come on. That's truth. Now, if that light switch moves, it's still truth, but it's just truth in a different spot. Does that make sense? Kind of weird, isn't it? Facts are facts. Truth is what we believe. Truth is what comes through our minds with how we've been raised, what we know. And at times, that can change. Because if you only know a little bit, that little bit is all that truth can be. You know, the world is flat. Truth, because that's all they knew. When they expanded and found out that the world was round, now the truth is the world is round. Beliefs, knowledge, understanding. These are the things that we have to work on. We need to work on our minds to develop them, to work on that and make those decisions to be better people for us and for those around us. And that's where you're looking at the Pharisees had this small belief, and they were not willing to let anything else come into that to allow them to think different or open their eyes to something else that could happen. They didn't want to know that. Is that how you are at work? Is that how you are at home? Is that how you are, that you are so much in that narrow spot that you're not willing to step out and take that chance to go, what is it that I need to do? I need to make that step of faith so I can move forward, so I can make that step. That's how we need to think. That's how we need to move to become stronger, to become better people. And as we're becoming better, we're helping those around us to be better, because as we move up, we will take those with us, because that's what we need to do. We need to love each other. We need to help them when they need help. Not expect anything in return, but help them when they need help. John chapter 9 is what we looked at today. Thank you for listening to The Gospel Road. Have a great day. God bless.